Hey, what's up guys? Mike from Reelcast Charters. Today we're talking about the three-way rig. The reason why it's called a three-way rig is because of this big 1.0 three-way swivel. This is a great rig for drifting live baits deep near the bottom. The top end of the swivel is where your main line is going to go, coming from your rod and reel. On the side here we have a 5-foot section of 60-pound fluorocarbon to our hook. Depending on what you're fishing, when I'm fishing live bunker, I have this double hook. Now I may be using circle hooks going forward or an octopus hook. And on the bottom half of your swivel, you have a short, about 6 to 9 inch piece of 60-pound leader with a perfection loop. And the reason why we use a loop is that's going to allow me to change weight as the current increases and decreases, and as we move around, it's very easy to loop the sinker on and off. One last thing, I don't use a real light piece of line here. Some guys say that, but if you use really light line, like say you're using 30-pound line with a heavier sinker, you're going to be breaking off a lot of sinkers. Normally, if you do snag bottom, you're able just to move your boat up drift and free it. So that's why I don't use a light piece of line. I will do one less turn on the sinker knot, so it would break a little easier, but I still use 60-pound for my entire rig. We're fishing live bunker for striped bass today, and we're using a three-way rig. The reason why we're fishing them on the three-way rig is so we could keep the bait down near the bottom. Once you get to about 20 feet and deeper, stripers are not going to rise up to the surface to take a bait. So we're going to use just enough weight to keep the bait vertical. Now, because we're using live bunker, that's going to be a fairly heavy weight. Right here, we're using about a 10-ounce sinker, and I'll use 16 ounces pretty commonly when the current's really going, because we don't want a lot of scope. We want that rig to stay pretty vertical, and we want to be able to control the depth. So once we drop the bait down, we're going to let it hit the bottom and come 2 cranks off the bottom. That's going to give you about 6 feet off the bottom. Stripers are going to be sitting right on the bottom. They're feeding up. Their eyes are towards the top of their head. So you want that bait going just over their nose. Too high in the water column, and the fish is not going to rise up to take the bait. And if the sinker's dragging on the bottom, you're going to be hanging up constantly. Now, like I said earlier, if you do hang up, it's easy enough to get out. You could start the boat, head up current, and free the rig. So for the hook set, you're going to find when you're using this three-way swivel rig that the bites are much more aggressive and you're going to miss less fish, as opposed to when you're freelining them and the bait could just swim all over the place. So that was a nice hook set there. You're not going to let this fish run with the bait at all. You know, there's a weight on there. So as soon as the bait starts to get hit, you're going to feel the bait get nervous. You're going to feel a couple good thumps, and you're just going to bow down to the fish, or bow to the cow, as we say, and then follow up with a good hook set. If you miss them, just hold the bait there and wait for them to come back for it. If you hook them, you could give them a second hook set. The reason why this technique is so effective is that it allows you to keep the bait in the strike zone for the entire drift. So we're fishing a reef. We're going to be starting our drift up current of the reef in deeper water. We're going to drop the bait down, hit bottom, come 2 cranks off the bottom. Now, as it gets shallower, we're going to be reeling line up. So I'm looking at the sonar, and about every time it gets 3 feet shallower, I take 1 crank up. Once I hit the top of the reef and it starts to get deeper, every time it gets about 3-4 feet deeper, I'm going to let out a few feet of line. So the goal is to always keep that bait within 2 cranks, or about 6 feet of the bottom. Last thing is the tackle we're using. I'm using the Shimano Tranx 400 series. I like using that with the push button release. Makes it real easy to let line in and out. And that's paired with a Shimano Terramar It's the medium heavy, the E70, and 50-pound Power Pro Super Slick V2. Hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this helped out. If it does, please subscribe to my channel, Real Cast Charters, and you could also find me on Instagram. Thanks a lot. You know, they changed it. I mentioned it before, right? It's 28 to 35. So if it's over 35 inches, you have to let them go now.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a pretty tight. That's crazy. So they changed it and they knocked it down to 1 a couple years back.
A couple years back, it's 1, but